You would
So,
like stuff
sorry, what'd you
like
say?
you want to include personal stuff like that?
Well, I don't mind it, let's say, because for me,
Okay.
I don't separate the two so much in this podcast because you've known me since I've approached you a couple of months ago, and the conversations I've had thus far have mostly been with people that are already in this little corner. But it's not my aim for this podcast at all. It's just how it happened because these
Yeah.
people are already in my network, let's say. But the conversations that I have on a day to day are often more personal, and um, it doesn't mean that they're less profound. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I don't
Yeah.
mind having the personal in there. I think
Okay.
it's powerful.
Cool. Good to know. Good to know. Um, so yeah, why is it a blessed day today? Well, there's a lot of things, but I think I'm in a different state of mind for one reason, which is I just went on a sprint
Hey,
just like 10 or 15 minutes ago. Um, and that's the picture that I sent you right
hmm
before this. So it took me down to that spot. And so um, endorphins or whatever you get from going on a long sprint, especially if it's been a while. Um, think about the rhythmic patterns of your body after you do that compared to just going about your day, right?
hmm
I'm feeling a little bit of that. It led me down to that place. Um, this is in my neighborhood here in
yeah.
the
Shall
area
I
that I
put
live.
it in the video for those who are watching it?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you
Can
can
I?
you can yeah, you can
Yeah.
show it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, where I live, there's lakes and things like that. And so that's like a frozen lake and people ice fish and whatnot. And it's sunny for the first time in a while. We've had a couple of few sunny days. And well, I was wondering, like, is this a beautiful photo to you? We were talking about beauty last time, and so I thought this was just something that was on my mind of um, how do we see beauty differently
Yeah.
or similar? So, like, yeah, what do you think about the photo?
Is it a frozen lake?
That lake is frozen, yeah.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna share my screen for the people at home because otherwise, if I have to put it in the recording, it takes like 2 hours to process and
Oh,
everything.
oh, afterwards, like overlaying it.
Yeah, I have to overlay. Sometimes I have to edit just a little thing, and it makes
Yeah,
everything so much longer. So I
yeah.
figured, why not just share it? Okay, so I think I'm sharing, right?
Yeah, I see the has started sharing screen, but it looks there you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So is this a frozen lake?
Yep.
Ah, I think it's beautiful. But I mean, for me, nature is almost exclusively beautiful because
Mm,
nature already has the patterns and the rhythm that that we try to mimic when we make something beautiful, I think.
mm.
So yeah, it's beautiful to me, but I can imagine it's even more beautiful to you because it's also linked to a particular feeling, which in this case is positive.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, oh, for sure. Exactly. Um, Maybe it would surprise you that I also very quickly moved on from seeing the beauty to seeing the ugliness.
okay, what did you see?
Well, look again. Do you see anything that is ugly?
I don't know. I think maybe the pavement, this little area with this square, you know. I think it might not be as beautiful as the rest, but I'm not sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Anything
Yeah,
else?
the power. The one that stuck out to me first is just and this happened to me when I was in the moment. So the photo was inspired by the moment that I had actually like looking out at this view. Um, and like you said, in that state, like I said, I just sprinted down this hill in my neighborhood and knew that I was going to end up here.
hmm
And so the power lines, that was the one that really like set me off in the moment. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that it just kind of you pointed out the natural beauty, which is obviously like what strikes me first in the moment. And then I just see the power lines right away and I'm like, man, it somehow kind of ruins it. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, I didn't really notice in the moment like the cracked pavement and just like the curb and all of that. And you know, so it's uh it's interesting that you can actually see the beauty and the ugliness, in the moment and in the photo. And you weren't there to see it, but you notice those things too.
Yeah. But I mean, are you a perfectionist generally? Do you think?
Oh no, gosh, I don't know. You should probably ask other people. Uh, I don't know, maybe competitive. Yeah, that type of competitive with yourself, competitive with other people. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but well, it's funny that one of my scribblings that I wrote down here, I think this is actually an interesting way to get there. So I have two things. One is observer dependent, and then an arrow leading to the name Robinson Jeffers. Have you ever heard of Robinson Jeffers?
No.
So, he was a poet, and he had an interesting perspective on the natural world, and then sort of uh, the aesthetics and how we see the beauty and what happens when we take a picture or write a poem about something. He was sort of, well, I think at least, battling with that. You remove yourself from the natural beauty as soon as you make it sort of unnatural in your human way, or in the way of an artist or things like that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what he says, and what I've read, it always seems to ruin that natural beauty for me. And so, um,
Do you mean his comments or the observer? Do the comments ruin it, or does the
well, no, just I feel like I related to that perspective that he was sort of expressing, and it has that type of perspective of sort of the I'm ruining it as an artist or as an observer with my bias and my intentions, or um, whatever. And you sort of lose the being in the moment of the thing and actually, well, as we were talking about last time, like feeling the real connection with what you're there with, and not through the screen of your little shiny rectangle or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, the beauty that I see is dependent on the observer, but it could be me in this case. It's just me as the observer. I'm changing my perspective
Hmm.
on what I'm seeing. It doesn't even have to be two distinct observers.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm wondering, when have you felt beauty before?
I feel it very often, and I think that I feel it more so when I see more clearly. And that leads me to believe that there is some objectivity to beauty, or maybe that's not the right word, but that you can get closer to it by seeing reality more for what it actually is.
Hmm,
But I experience beauty all the time, overwhelmingly so. I
really?
cry a lot at beautiful things, especially stories.
Stories.
Yeah, beautiful stories.
That is really cool. Um, do you feel like so do you empathize with the characters? Is that and the situations and it's moving to you or something?
Well, that's one thing, but I'm the most touched by stories that make the most sense on a deeper intuitive symbolic level, let's say. So the empathizing with certain characters, that's beautiful, but that's like it's nice, but it's almost only a bonus. Like for me, the moment I cry in movies is usually at the end, because then everything comes together, and like the patterns are aligning, and then you have harmony, if it's a good story at least. And if it's a really good story, then I'll just sob uncontrollably for like 40 minutes, which has happened rarely, but it does happen. You can ask my fiance.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, so movies as well. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
I just happen to be thinking of like reading a book, but yeah. I cry more frequently at music, I
Ah,
think.
yeah.
Um, And most of the time, I think there's no singing or anything. There's no voice. It's just
Hmm.
instrumental music.
Yes, I have the same.
Mhm. Um, I don't know if my crying lasts like 40 minutes, but
Yeah, but for me, sometimes the movie is taking so long, so then it's well, I'm still watching the movie a little bit after. But if it's a shorter song, I guess it's hard to keep it going.
yeah. That is an interesting thing. It's like, how does a certain, I'm trying to, well, is it okay if we, especially since I watched it so recently, like try to continue some of the
Yeah, of course,
concepts we were talking about last time?
of course.
Like, so you already use like harmony and stuff. So I am thinking about a lot of those sort of musical metaphors in general,
Hmm.
and that sort of terminology, just as a way to connect. It seems to make it easier for me. Um, and so what was I going to say? Oh, why does why does a certain pattern of a story, a rhythm, right? Because what is it about the rhythm of the story that moves you or makes an impression on you? You said it comes at the end, right? So in terms of like the I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? I got to stop myself before I
Okay,
just keep
okay.
going.
Yeah, no, that's good. So this when a story is developing, I think the characters go through a transformation. If it's a good story, especially like the hero, if he will go through a transformation. And so why it's usually at the end for me is because that's when things start to align. Like you have the
Mm,
maturation of the characters. Like I'll pull it to a movie that I watched yesterday. Almost
mhm,
all of the characters in the movie undergo this transformation. And then at the end it becomes clear what they're supposed to be doing. So that means that they're in harmony with their purpose or whatever name you want to put on it. So that's
mm.
yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Okay. When you have this sort of larger reference frame of the entire movie and the character arc,
Mm,
that's when it all like lines up or something, right? It's like you're stepping back far enough to see the pattern, and maybe see is not the right thing. You're able to just feel the pattern of
yeah.
that whole story, and maybe the rhythm of it, again, trying to sort of jam rhythm and stuff in here.
Mm.
But do you ever are there stories that like make you cry at multiple moments? Like there's a build up moment that makes you cry, or the sort of the low point in the story arc, and then at the end the resolution too. Does that happen?
Yes, I would say that I think some Miyazaki movies are very powerful with this because do you know them?
I don't think so. What's the title of a movie?
Well, there's multiple movies. The most famous one I think is Spirited Away. So,
Okay.
do you know this?
I'm aware of this. I think I've watched quite a bit of it. I've never sat down, and I'm certainly not like someone who like knows a lot about the different layers of the
Ah,
movie, right?
yeah.
But I
Well, I
do know,
highly go
I can
ahead.
imagine some of the artwork style, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that well, Jonathan Peugeot is a big fan of Miyazaki movies. I think it's one of his favorite type of films. He's a Japanese filmmaker, and they're basically like animated movies, and they're deeply symbolic, and they're known to have really good feminine characters. Um, like they really get that right, and I think one of the reasons why I cried multiple moments in some of those movies is I think it's because this creator Miyazaki he really tunes into the story. Like he tunes into that. Whatever he taps into, it's so primal in me that I will never be able to explain it to you propositionally. Like with another movie of his, Howl's Moving Castle, I was like halfway through the movie, it just started crying and it wouldn't stop. It would only intensify. I didn't understand it at all. If I then I watched it again and I didn't have the exact same experience, but it was just like
Interesting.
inexplicable. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't cry at low points because for me, low points are like I don't cry at sad things often. I cry
Really?
more at beautiful things.
Okay.
Although sometimes there's so much beauty in the low point because that might be when the character realizes that there's no way to go but up. So then maybe I'm contradicting myself. But anyway, I'll stop talking this time.
No, it's good. Um, what you said was that somehow this person was tuning in with something deeply meaningful with you.
Mm, yeah.
So being in tune,
Mm,
um, what does it mean to be in tune with something? I'm thinking about an orchestra,
yeah.
right? And but also a smaller group of musicians, right? You could go down to whatever, maybe a duet or something and being in
Mm,
tune. Like multiple instruments being in tune means that there's some foundational starting point or context or something of the key, right? And so what is the, you know, what key of Lucas's song was, or how was he tuning in with your song or with
well,
whatever key you're in? You see what I'm trying to say here?
yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but I think the formulation is that it's my song. But to me, he was tuning into something more deeply. It's like something more universal. Like it's not just
Mm.
what is for me. I think it's like you know
Ah,
the patterns we were speaking about last time where you have the static and the dynamic
yes.
to it. I think that if you tune into a harmony of those two, then you're tuning into something beyond just the personal individual song, but the universal song. I think that's what is going on when,
Ah,
especially because it's a story. Some of these stories are so popular to people. Like a lot of people swear by these movies as being the best. You know?
sure.
Yeah.
Right. There's that corroboration of um the what key it's in. Like
Yeah.
what frequency are y'all tuned into on that one? It's like very clear
Exactly.
that there's something there.
Yeah.
So you're saying that as the artist, he's creating something that is in tune with this lower, larger frequency or whatever it is, right? And that is a frequency that is also sort of in you, ready to be struck,
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about two tuning forks. So do you know this about tuning forks? If you like hit one with a mallet to like get it going, you can like hit it on the table. That's not really what you're supposed to do, I guess. But
Uh huh.
um, you start the tuning fork into its active frequency. That's going to impress upon the other tuning fork. And
Oh
if
yeah.
there's certain mathematical relationships, some resonance is going to happen. If certain mathematical relationships, or ratios really are not, um, I guess, in tune. Is
Yeah.
is that what it means to be in tune? Like I said, my musical knowledge. Somebody correct me in this is what the people in the comments like actually are teachers.
Yeah.
Um, so anyways, right, there's okay, we had the artist going down to the deep thing, the frequency, and that
Hmm.
frequency is in you and it gets rung by the other tuning fork.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think it was? If you had to describe the tuning fork, what do you think he was tapping into? Just focus on that one specific case of that movie Spirited Away, right? The moment that you cried,
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of other people probably cried at that moment too.
Yeah,
What
for
was
me,
it?
it's really it's especially the coming together toward. I think it's like it's so brilliant in the sense that these things that there's different parts of the movie that develop, and you're not sure how they fit together exactly. And then near the end, it's like, oh, of course, and then everything comes together. And I think a
Mhm.
good story
Okay.
always gets that, like, or good music. You have different parts, and you're like, what are all these parts doing over here? And then it's an artist's brilliance to get those parts to dance together. I
Mm.
think that's what's happening. I don't know how to tie it into the tuning fork, but yeah.
No, see the tuning fork, like that's just something that pops up for me in
Yeah.
terms of like imagery and just like sorting things out in my own mind in the moment. When I
Hmm.
look back on just like talking about the tuning forks, it's like, again, it's another story that I'm throwing out there with a certain, in a certain box of language, which is like these musical metaphors, these metaphors of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
maybe I could tell you a little bit more about like um, why I'm trying to do that if I get the
Yeah.
chance now.
Go ahead.
Well, so the story matters, right? I think the story matters. What story you tell is going to matter, whether it makes you cry, whether it makes you understand, the story matters. And for us, language, right? And um, the concepts like really, really, really matter. And lots of really smart people like neuroscientists and psychologists, um, one that I can name is like if you've ever heard of George Lakoff or
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mark
have
Johnson,
actually.
George
What
Lakoff,
what
like
is he famous for, Lake Off? I'm thinking.
writing about metaphors,
Okay.
um, and what metaphors mean. There are a number of books that they've written together and separately, and they're
Yeah.
massive books. They're massive books. Most of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you've heard of like 4E cognition,
Yes.
they
Okay,
sort of
that's probably where I heard it. Yeah. Okay.
they I, I mean, I don't want to overblow it, but their sort of theories were foundational to a lot of the things that people in 4E cognition groups and experiments sort of draw on. Um, and so one of the things that they talked about was that our language and understanding and concepts are deeply tied to like the physics that we experience in our world, right? The fact that things are up and down, and then what we associate with up and down or going forward and going back or going over, all of this stuff is deeply tied to like an embodied nature.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We stand up and we grow up. So the word up has a lot of deep meaning. Okay. Now, the only leap that I'm making is that the words that I use to tell the story matter. And so um, right now, I feel like there's a story that could use the language of music that people could really understand because we understand music to a certain
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
Like like I don't feel like quantum physics is doing it for people.
No.
It's not doing it for me really. Like um well, oh, see, that's difficult. It does do it for me. Well, I shouldn't lie. Like I do actually like understanding some of the quantum physics stuff, but it's like that ugliness of the photo of the street, It's like there's something about quantum physics that like has a power line in it that
Yeah.
I just, anyways. And music is just more beautiful to me. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think no one denies that. Like that music is meaningful, for example. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't
Sure,
describe quantum physics as meaningful, usually because they don't understand it. And even if they do sometimes, they wouldn't describe it as beautiful. But music,
sure.
I don't think anyone doesn't or hasn't experienced music as beautiful.
So, however, this is where, I'm catching myself in the act, which is like the quantum physics is there for us. And at some level, people should be able to, or they should be brought into understanding what it has to say, you
Yeah.
know? It provides a different position and a different depth of understanding or meaningfulness. I guess it could be for anybody, but it might not be for most. Who knows? So yeah, how do you connect the musical language to the language of quantum physics? You know, how do you make that leap? Um, and maybe that's where the fundamental properties of like tuning and frequency and waves and that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see
seems
where you're
like
going with it.
the connection is there. Um, So, hmm,
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, I'm also thinking of how we aim to pass on not only knowledge, but I think wisdom over to new generations. And it's not done through mathematical equations. It's usually done through stories and song. Do you know what
mm,
I mean? Like that's what we
I
do.
do.
It's what
I
we've always
do.
done. Yeah.
I do. I know some people might be offended by that, or like sort of, don't leave it. What? The quantum physics is the best part, like, and that's fine. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, what's going to make a difference?
Mm,
What really is going to make a difference? What kind of story
yeah.
is going to make a difference? The difference, what kind of story can make such a difference that you cry for 40 minutes, right?
Yeah. I don't
What
know. I like I'm so this is where I'm inclined to say that it's a Christian story sometimes, but it's also maybe that's just an image to use that word, if you know what I mean. Like I think that's what someone like Vivek is worried about. It's like we absolutize the story, but maybe the story, like the Christian story, is referring to something even beyond itself. Like if we absolutize that word, maybe we fetishize it. Maybe we, I don't know, damage it in some way. But it's that's the language I would use for it. Yeah.
that's, I mean, there's the, sort of to the test of time
Yeah.
in the stories, right? Like
Yeah.
just straight up, like the story's been around for a long, long, long time.
Mm.
Uh, just at that simple level. Um, my knowledge and um daily experience with those stories is weak. And so yeah, that's just where I'm at with that. But
No, that makes sense. That's okay.
I'm looking down to my scribblings. And we haven't even gotten close to what I originally emailed you
Yeah,
for.
let's. You want to talk about numbers?
Oh gosh. I wrote that at the bottom of my scribblings because that's just like, I don't know. Um, and I have a little bit of time today. So
Good.
if you wanna kind of take our time with this,
Yeah, sure.
um, well, where do I start? Part of my email to you, I'm not looking at it, but I'm just trying to go back to that moment of like, why did I email Lucas
Yeah.
late at night when I was just thinking about stuff? Um, so what really got me into that was two things. What is it about making a record of something?
Mm.
What changes when we write a number down? What's different from what's different between writing the number down and seeing it and knowing what you counted or what it represents, and what's actually out there and what we're sort of experiencing too. The difference between those things, that's something that I'm just like, I don't know where I'm at with it quite yet.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second thing is where I should start because it's easier to jump into. So I think it's related maybe to what you said in our last conversation, the non-propositional knowing. Was it non-propositional knowing or no understanding or something,
Something like
knowledge
that. Probably knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. or truth or whatever. I mean, we want to kind of bring along there.
Mm.
Um, so there are truths, I think, that are computational and non-computational. And it seems like there are non-computational realizations that um, things that can only compute aren't able to realize,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's a really roundabout way to say, like, an AI system, a computer, is not able to make the non-computational realization.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a really bold claim, but I just don't understand. If I'm wrong, I just don't understand how it could.
Yeah.
So here's the example that just is ingrained in me. And I just think it makes it obvious that there is this distinction that we can make. Maybe it's even too simple. So just imagine a white background with a black square somewhere in the frame.
Mm.
Now, the question that we ask a human being, a human observer, somebody who I'm attributing this sort of non-computational, non-propositional knowing potential to, right? My big claim here is that humans can do this thing, computers cannot. Um, you see the white background, you see the black square, and you're asked the question, um, what's the length of, or are the lengths of the boundaries between the white background and the black square itself, are those the same or not? And so, well, I guess if it's that obvious to me, I guess I should ask you, can you imagine this thing? And then someone asks you the question, are those boundaries the same length or not? The white, square that's cut out and the black square that is sort of there. Maybe a picture would be better, but
You're saying the square could be anywhere on the white background.
yeah, it doesn't matter.
But what do you mean with are the boundaries the same?
Okay, yeah. See, this is where maybe my example without a visual is just like, or like a whiteboard or something. So the the place where the black square, think about the boundary between the black square and the white background.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, what shape is it?
The shape of the boundary?
Yeah,
I don't know if it has a shape. I mean, it's a.
I would say it's a square.
But how do you mean it's a border? If is that
Yeah,
what you mean? Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
A border.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
border.
That works.
Exactly. What's the border? What's the boundary between the black and white,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm imagining is like white stuff on one side of the boundary and black stuff on the other side of the boundary, right? So we really are thinking about the white side of the boundary and the black side of the boundary.
Yeah.
And now you say, okay, yeah, those are squares, right? It's like you know, it's an outline, like you said, it's a border.
Yeah.
Is the length of the white boundary the same as the length of the black boundary?
Okay. Now I see what you're saying. Well, if the white square is, let's say, encompassing the black square, then then the white square is longer, I'd say.
Exactly. So here's the point. We could come up with more than one answer here, right? Um, the point is that I think without doing any computations, we realize that the borders are sort of in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
They're occupying the same, you know, border.
Yeah.
Uh, and a computer, how would they answer that question? Would they, I mean, are the length of the boundaries the same or not? How would they answer that? I think they would just measure the lengths,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but that's not what we do,
No.
right? We think about the relationship between the outside area, the outside white and the inside black, or however you think about it. The white, the background and the black square on top. Um, and I just don't see how those two things are the same.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So what is it about doing a computation or using numbers that's different from, what you and I are struggling to do in this like really bad like visual problem that I gave us,
No, but I
which
got it.
internally feels so intuitive. Um, what's the difference? Why is writing a number down different? Because that's, I think, what computers are really doing at this point is they're just keeping track of quantities, bits, electrical impulses, electrons, whatever it is at this point in computation. I'm not going to go into quantum computers or qubits or whatever is going on there.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, to like get an answer from a computing machine, that answer is going to be dealing with numbers.
Yeah. Quantities. That's a problem.
So even, I mean, even think about the language stuff. That seems so not numbers like. And we have like these chat GPT um, systems and artificial intelligence systems like, and they'll give you language and they'll give you a story,
Hmm.
but it's all numbers underneath,
Yeah.
which is different from the way that we come up with a story.
Hmm.
So what's the difference? What's what does a number do? What does writing down a number do? How is it different?
I think a number is definitely in a, especially if it's written down, I think it's definitely in a lower reality in the sense that it's quantifiable. And if you just have quantity, then you don't have quality. And I think quality is something that we are able to recognize, but an AI machine perhaps is not. It's similar with science in the sense that they always say that science is not able to tell you what's good or bad. For example, like science, even if you can do something, doesn't mean you should do it. For example, these
Okay.
types of things. I think that it's connected to numbers in that sense. I think numbers are very useful, but once they're written down, they're also reduced to something. And if you forget that that something refers to something higher, let's say, like you were speaking about in your email about geometry and geometry with and without numbers, I think that's what you said. Now, famously, the Platonists they
Oh,
use
geez.
geometry to ascend, yeah,
Oh,
to like a realm that is Wolfgang Smith would call it aveternal in the sense that there's no space nor time. But I think if you put numbers in that mix, you're right back down to where we are now. So I think that's what numbers do.
I agree with you. Um, Now, there are smart people that say our reality is all computation. And
Smart is not
I can,
wise.
but I can't disprove them right now. Um, but I actually really respect those people, and they're very smart, and that's not their only ideas. Um, so yeah, when we use a number, this is this is how I feel like I wrap around to the Robinson Jeffers sort
Okay.
of perspective,
Yeah.
right? It's the same type of removal as you said into a lower, I think you said a lower realm, or I can't remember
Hmm.
exactly what I was like very, I was very intrigued.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, in order to write down a number, you have to sort of make a decision and a distinction that may not actually be there. Um, right? If we, you know, well, again, I think we can look at the same thing and we can quantify it differently, um, depending on what level we're at. So if you and I are sort of counting things on different levels in what we're looking at, right? We can look at the same thing and count it differently.
Yeah. Absolutely.
for example, um, if we look at a person standing in front of us, you could count that as one person.
Hmm.
On a level, you could count their cells and say that there are. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see exactly what you're saying. This is unity and
Hey,
multiplicity.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is there, and that the fact that that is there, it's sort of it shows that if you pull one number out, it's only one among many that are there for you to pull out, right? I pull it, I look at one person and I pull out the number one and I say, this is what that is. That's one person. Um, and so then you've immediately removed from the sort of the no counting of the thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's some, oh, is there like a fall? Uh, when you use a number, a fall from beauty that
The fall from unity.
from unity. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Unity is what is the structure of all the potential counts that you could do
Yeah.
or something. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so um you almost sort of led us to the fact that what about numbers and geometry?
Mm.
Because a pentagon, you can very easily represent five, which is something that we generally count with, in something that's not a number exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But the number part of it is there for you. Does that make sense?
It does
So,
make
like,
sense. Yeah.
a pentagon at one level is five sides, or could represent five aspects, five key principles, five energy systems, or whatever it might be. But a pentagon also has angles and corners and faces or edges and vertices and things like that that are, well, they also have extra numbers in there, right? There's the angles and the ratio of the angles compared to 180 or 360. There's all of these sort of like embedded um, things that are, again, you could pull at them from the number thing. I look at the gosh, just think about looking at a pentagon. Maybe I'm such a nerd about this that I look at a pentagon differently than most people, but to me, there's something interesting about the gosh, just the shape and the angles and how there's symmetry and not, and how you can sort of break it down or tile it or something.
Yeah.
Um, and that can either impress upon me just as a general, sense of like the symmetry or asymmetry, etc. Or there's, I can measure the angles and check the actual ratios and see if they, um, again, if they have these sort of harmonious relationships,
Hmm.
right? So there's like certain fractions that are maybe somehow more beautiful than others, right?
Yeah.
Like a 1/4 is just it's special. It's a quarter, that's way better than a 202 out of 306, like do you see what I'm saying here?
I see exactly what you're saying. I'm what
So
I'm
like
thinking about while you're
so
speaking. Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead before I go
No, no,
further.
no, no, no,
I
no.
need you. I need you, Lucas.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll pull up a couple of thoughts that I had. One term that comes to mind for me is irreducible wholeness, which I've heard Wolfgang Smith use a lot. It's this idea that you for example, you could be an irreducible wholeness in a sense, but if you start to really think like in a materialist reductionist way, I could reduce you to your livers, to your liver, to your heart, to your bones, all these things. Like what you see when you see a pentagon is you see something that's like it can be one thing and it has all these beautiful properties, but it's never just the properties. It's something, yeah, irreducible about it. There's a wholeness to it that you're able to recognize. But I think computers, perhaps they can't. And I think people nowadays find that harder and harder to do as well, which is why some people struggle so hard with symbolic language, religious language.
Mm, that is a
The,
good.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Why is there such an apparent meaning crisis or whatever? It's real for sure. Um, so you can tell that I'm sort of on team geometry, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that there's some extra special beauty in the geometry. What I want to do to myself, and I'm sort of like anti-number, right? Like just computation.
Yeah.
This AI isn't as artistic as me, like that sort of like what are numbers lacking? They don't
Yeah.
have as much as um but then what I want to do is just like shove myself over the line and say, but wait, can numbers have that same type of extra special beauty that geometry has? Can the numbers by themselves sort of have something extra above and beyond the number,
Yes.
right? So, well, you respond to that.
Yes, they can.
Okay, it's obvious to you.
Well, I think so.
Okay, tell me.
Depends on the
I,
number too.
I'm serious. I think so too.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I led myself, I think.
Okay.
So I'm with you.
Cool.
I'm not trying to gotcha or anything. Um, I find it interesting that we would corroborate our
Yeah.
intuition.
No,
Okay,
so
what's extra special about numbers potentially?
some numbers I think are
Ooh,
extra special because they refer beyond themselves in such a beautiful manner, like the number seven or 72.
72?
72, I think, is one of those numbers that shows up in many different places, which is why, like, I got really into this stuff 4 years ago or something. And I was watching all these little YouTube videos, like sacred geometry, all these things. Um, yeah, I know, and I know, but
Oh, dude, I'm with you.
yeah. So, but
Go
I
on.
really didn't know what to make of it. But I was just so completely fascinated by certain ratios and numbers. It's like, wow, there's something so much deeper there, and I'm still not able to explain it, or nor can I understand it. I think that sacred geometry, for example, it's a whole practice that I'm not sure people are still able to practice. But so, number seven, to take an example, is for me it refers to something. Well, it's biblical in one sense that seven is wholeness compared to six as perfection. Um, do you know? Do you know about like 666
Uh,
as satanic?
I mean, geez, man, that's kind of loaded. Um, Wait, you got to repeat that for me because I'm adding this to my spreadsheet.
Oh yeah,
I'll give you credit. Credit. You said six was perfection,
it's not.
and
This is not my stuff, huh? This is just biblical.
I don't. I want it's whatever. It's your stuff from the Bible. And seven is wholeness. You said right?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. Okay, tell me more.
Well, it's this idea that six, it's like it's perfect. You can divide it by three and two, and there's no additional added thing.
Ah,
So
yes.
six is like you think about the German Empire, like Second World War. They want to have everything to be perfect. They want to have a perfect species, perfect people. Everything has to be clean. They spoke a lot about disgust and all these things, and I think that's referring to that little extra that the seven does include. It's the margins, the margins. So seven to me is beautiful because it encompasses those margins, and instead of perfection, it goes for completion, or yeah, like that wholeness. I'm not sure how to describe it exactly, but it's reality. Like for example, the Egyptians in their calendar, we took it from the Egyptians, our calendar, but they had 360 days. Do you see how that's perfect?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it
Mhm.
be perfect if our year consisted of 360 days? We wouldn't have those shitty little, what are they called in English? I don't know, those little extra days.
Leap years, leap days. We just had one of those
Yeah,
actually.
exactly.
And yeah, exactly. And then those extra 5.25 middle ground days, we got to do something super special for that. Like
Yeah,
it seems like an awesome time for a festival or whatever.
yeah,
Or like maybe not something so, oh gosh, so demonstrative. Um, just like a time of reflection or something, right? Like
uh-huh.
an accounting of your whatever, or maybe time to tune your harmony up. And that I think that would be so cool if our year wasn't so the 365.25 is just so unsatisfactory.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's now that I think about it, now you really got me started, man. Like it's really ugly, isn't it?
It's not very beautiful in that sense, no. 365.2. But
It
in
would.
another way it is. That's what I propose to you.
Oh,
Yes.
the decimal version. Because I like your 360 day year.
Yeah,
The
so
months,
that's where I was
oh,
going. The Egyptians liked it too. That's why they used it. And then I don't know when exactly, but it got turned into what we have now because they realized that reality is not 360, if you know what I mean. Or for example, the Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's got a little thing to it. I don't know if you know about that.
yes. Oh, indeed. Yes. The wobble,
So
the
that's
precession.
reality. That's reality. It's not perfect.
Ooh,
360 would be
interesting.
perfect. A perfect sphere would be amazing, but that's not reality. So reality is whole. It's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. How would a real sphere ever actually be perfect? It's like,
Exactly. There
well,
are no
and
real circles, no perfect circles in the world.
exactly. Um, and part of that is because you will never reach infinite precision
Mm,
in verifying. So there's like sort of two not perfect circles that we can think about as like one in reality none exist because life is asymmetrical at some point, or whatever, imperfect. And then the other is that we would never know even if it was because we could never measure enough to say it is perfect. It's
yeah.
the sort of like the horizon of the numbers and the lines again, right? It's like a point doesn't exist, but we can draw a point on our Cartesian coordinate system to represent a, on
Yes,
the
exactly.
complex plane, on the whatever. But the point is like infinitesimally small, which or even worse than infinitesimally small. It's not even small, right? There is no point there. The line has no thickness, the mathematical line. So there it's always approximations. Um, I'm jumping right back into Robinson Jeffers and
Let's
like
do it.
trying to again feel the like anti-number thing. But six is perfect, you said.
Yeah.
And yeah, three times two, it's like do you think about the geometry though too? Do you think about like a hexagon?
No, I don't think that way yet because I've never
Really?
educated myself on geometry, no.
Yeah. Okay, so like yeah, that's where well, a six-sided a hexagram, if it's like a perfect one, an asymmetrical one, like it's gonna like tile the plane, they
Mm,
say, right? And that's sort of like a special thing to do in geometry. And it's just like one of the like most natural, just like tile the plane with hexagons. Um, and you could break it down into triangles, and all of that. It's like very foundational again. It's like
yeah.
it's some sort of like perfect spatial potential or potential of these relationships. Um, but it's not fun. It's not fun, right? It's like it's too rigid. What we were talking about before, like it's too conservative, it's too
Yeah.
structured. Um, Whereas seven like has this little bit of, like maybe to get from six to seven is like the little bit of extra chaos.
Yes,
Remember I'm
that's
talking
exactly
about
what
like
it
this.
is.
So like think about the story from 0 to 7, and like to move from 6 to 7, it's like chaos, pushes six beyond its, perfection.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah. What
also
do
the
you?
symmetry. Think about the
Huh?
symmetry. You brought up the fact that like, oh, like why is six awesome? Because 2 and 3 fit into it perfectly, right? It's like their
Yeah.
factor of six. Um, and also then the hexagon has these symmetry patterns that it will follow, right? So like you could fold a hexagon in half, right? As like a sort of symmetry of two, right? Like a factor of two. Or you could have a three, break it down into three equal parts as well, the actual geometry, right? Um, and so yeah, and then you can think about all of the different places that you could use a sort of slice across to fold twice, and all of the places that you could use sort of cutting it three ways and sort of move that around, rotate it, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, six has like so many of these different possibilities that are just like nice and symmetrical, and huh, it's uh it's just that perfect number.
Yeah. Yeah. I would venture to say that if you try to make reality like that, then I think you're. I don't want to use this language. I think you're gonna go wrong there. I think that's what people try to do when they want to make everything symmetrical in their body, for example. Something like when I was a teenager, I was very materialistic. I was very much thinking about this in the sense as well. Like I would see little imperfections on myself and I would want to fix them, you know? And I think that's what a lot of people do nowadays. Whereas I
Oh yeah.
think what people really find the most beautiful, and there's this actor, he's a great example of this. He's got a completely asymmetrical face, and he's like um, one of the most popular actors right now. I'm forgetting his name. He's the guy that played in Barbie.
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Yes, he's got the most asymmetrical face in the world.
Really?
Have you ever seen it?
I
Wait.
haven't seen the movie, but I'm like a fan of like Ryan Gosling. I feel like, like I don't watch a lot of movies anymore, but we used to watch movies kind of like in the 2000s and like stuff like that when I was younger
Mm-hmm.
and whatever. And I think Ryan Gosling is like an awesome actor. He's like
Yeah.
great looking guy. He's been in really cool movies that I like too, like Blade Runner 2049. Have you
Yeah,
seen?
that's a really beautiful one. I know.
There's the one where he's like he rides a motorcycle like out in the woods. I can't remember the title of that one either. But he's really cool in this. He like drives a car around the city. It's just like he's so cool.
Yeah.
And so yeah, okay. I never knew he had like a really
So I show
asymmetrical face.
you. I show you
Oh, you're
here.
gonna show me? Okay.
See it?
I know oh interesting.
It's like super asymmetrical.
Yeah, he looks so cool.
But anyway,
That
that's
it
beauty.
reminds me of sorry, one thing I gotta say. It reminds me of if any people have seen this. I think it's a meme, but it's like a real picture. It's like I don't want to point it out. It's not a nice Tom Cruise. Okay. Tom Cruise, his teeth, he has like a center tooth. It's like
Okay.
his teeth are like asymmetrical. But again, Tom Cruise, like one of the probably the most popular actors of all time and super handsome and everything. And yeah, it's just like see there's like you know, it so it's just one of those fun things that sticks with you. Like somebody shows you that and then I'm like,
Yeah, you
oh
never unsee it. I see it. Yeah. His left. Can you see this?
yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
It's interesting.
Okay.
Oh man, wow, this is taking me a lot of places. Well, okay, let's keep it interesting, and I'm gonna still, call us back to things that we've been talking about. So I'm doing my best here to, again, not run all over the place with you. Um, Especially because you said dude, you're hurting. Are you gonna be sore tomorrow? Or are you gonna get good sleep or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna sleep like a baby. I'm training legs tomorrow, so I have to. So I'm doing like a little stretching.
What do you okay. Um these are the these are like so these are like the fun like personal conversations like that we could have. So do you want to? Otherwise,
Uh,
I would call us back.
yeah, call
Um
us back.
call us back. Okay. All right. All right, we'll talk about training another time.
Yeah, we can have a whole separate like philosophical discussion about football and training. I think it's really cool. But go ahead.
Okay, fine. While we're on a little random moment here. This is like a commercial now.
Exactly.
So one of the things I thought would be really fun for really any podcast to do, and maybe some podcasts actually do this, but I feel like you and I could do this if we could just talk every once in a while. It would be
Yeah.
great. Um, but to start it off with a little segment of just like show and tell. And I was thinking about the whole like what do you find beautiful? What do I find beautiful? Like how do we see what's common between this? And like I sent you a picture this time. So even something like that, I feel like I that was my little version of like show and tell.
Yeah.
And it'd be great to like just start it off with that sort of like friendly, like, hey, like this is a song I really liked recently, not related to our things, or maybe so. And just like have that be a little fun thing to do sometime.
Yeah, it was a suggestion by my one of my earlier guests who I love
Really?
speaking to. Well, it's not this exactly, but he said with poetry. That's what was his idea. To trigger a discussion
Yeah,
with a bit
whatever
of
you want.
poetry. You know? That's
You
really
want.
cool.
Show and tell.
Yeah. So
Okay,
and so next
let
time
me
I will
call
come
us
with
back.
something.
What's that?
Next time I'll come with something as well. We can do a
Okay,
little thing.
great. So I want to call us back to because we were talking about people's faces and beauty. Okay. And well, your face changes throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, in sort of short time frames and over long time frames, right?
Yeah.
Making a smile is like changing my face in a short time frame,
Mhm.
and how saggy and sunburnt my face is um, over decades. Like
Yeah.
another level that we could look at. And so we're trying to figure out how to make an impact on our health or our disease by getting in tune or looking into the harmony or disharmony of our lives. And I wonder if we can sort of read some of that by just taking a look at how we change, maybe how our face changes over time.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
trying
leave
to
it to you.
understand what you're saying exactly. You want to pierce into this idea of what you spoke about before, using harmony to assess um, health.
Yeah. Okay.
But
And so I'm trying to be, maybe my language is like too playful.
uh-huh.
Um, and maybe that's because I haven't practiced this that much, like
Yeah.
I'm trying to use harmony and everything and just make it work.
Yeah.
So our bodies change. It represents the disease and health that we have. What are the songs that are going to make a difference? What are the harmonies that are going to make a difference so that my body makes beautiful changes
Yeah.
over time?
You have to I'm thinking about this. I don't know if it actually makes sense, but I think you have to die a little bit in that
Mm.
sense. I I'm not sure if this is the right way to speak about it, but that's how I view for example, eating of or fasting, for example. That's this example of like some people it's this whole health trend now, and I did it for a while, stopped with it for several reasons, but like this idea of dying a little bit to live longer, let's say. So you deprive yourself in an attempt to on the long term make a difference, let's say. That's actually, it's something akin to what we spoke about last time with this period of imbalance or something like a workout that what what is a workout but something that is like super imbalanced, like you're doing something that you could never sustain on a long period, but because you burst it in a short time, it's actually beneficial to do on the
Mhm.
long term. Or like exposing yourself to extreme cold or extreme heat. I don't know what how that works with um, music or harmony, but maybe that's like a shakeup we need. And maybe people that already are living in harmony don't need these extreme things. They're just always in harmony. I don't know.
I'm thinking about this.
Yeah,
Um, I totally agree and relate to what you said about making changes in the body in terms of, like we were just talking about, training or exercise.
yeah,
But I think that the way that we look and the way that our body functions is also changing because of the way that we're attempting to use it on a daily basis. For example, my little kids, um, it's very easy to see how they change, how their body changes, like over short periods of time. And what I think is clear is that children learn how to move their bodies from watching the other bodies around them.
mm,
And in a lot of cases, that's maybe their parents. In my case, my kids are in my house. I work from home. They see me around the house a lot. Um, and so I see, like, for example, my daughter, like, doing some of the physical things that I do, even like intentionally, like when we march to a song, or like clap your hand. It's like you're
yeah,
mimicking the way that you move. Um, and how you walk and how you jump and all of that, right? She's using my body and her sister's body and her mom's body like as examples, or the people that she sees on TV, which is new these days, right? Like she has people singing songs and clapping to her and doing all of that from the shiny rectangle.
mm,
Um, and so I wonder also how my daughter learns to make faces like me, the expressions on my faces on my face on my
yeah,
faces, the expression on my face is also, she's sort of mimicking that, when she's learning how to react, right? Um and so I'm just wondering about how I can, get my life in harmony so that I'm the the patterns and the songs that I'm showing the people around me are allowing them to change in a healthy way, or I'm sort of giving an example of health and
yeah.
not disease.
I
Um,
think a lot of it is acting according to nature. I think Marcus Aurelius speaks about this a lot in his meditations. That's like his goal almost to act according to nature. Like people nowadays are really starting to wake up to the fact that the way we are living in the modern age is in many ways unnatural. Like sitting 9 hours a day or walking on shoes that are too tight and walking on shoes at all, like all these little things, you know? And so I think
so many things, honestly, so many things.
so many things, but harmony is it's almost just living the way that we would have lived if we didn't think about all these things all the time, like if we just lived according to nature. But now that we have the will, you can debate that of course, but let's just use it, the will to choose, the free will um to plan your own path, to pave your own path, and to you can be unnatural if you like. We have to kind of relearn. For me, it's always relearning how children do things, to be honest. Like you're speaking about your kids mimicking you. I try to mimic kids, to be honest, because I think they still have this natural way of doing things. It's built in because a lot of things that they do aren't picked up from um, adults. I think it may be even more primal. Like, how does a beaver know how to build a dam? Does he look at the other beavers, or does he just know? Like, we have things like that too,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Oh, for
Built in.
sure. I mean, watch an episode of The Dog Whisperer and you realize that people are not, you can use the same tactics on people.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
now that's maybe okay. I'm not saying put a leash on a person or anything like that. I'm just saying, like and maybe that's like a South Park episode. I think there's
Yes,
one
it is.
probably with the dog whisperer, and he's like, using the like sort of thing.
Yeah.
But well, there's a bigger principle there, right? And it does sort of, um, I'm sure like developmental psychology and even whatever teaching or child raising and whatever discipline practices and things like that. There's got to be some commonality with like what you do with a puppy, um,
Yeah.
on some level. Um, yeah, I agree. Actually, it's so fun to be like a kid if you can do it. Um, there's a lot of things that can constrain you from doing it. One is like your physical body, where
Hmm.
like kids can just like fall down and like they're fine. And I've seen some. Uh, maybe you knew this or not. I spent a lot of time out on the soccer field with little kids.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Many, 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 many hours. And I love it because I will clown around. I will be kid like, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Um, but these kids sometimes, man, they're running like full steam ahead and they hit something, another person, the ground, the ball hits them really hard. Like things like this happen and they are just right back up.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like sometimes, I mean, if you're old enough, if you fall, like that could be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, we don't have that same sort of plasticity or like flexibility, I think, in our bodies. And then the like ability to sort of let go of the purpose and the even the meaning, like let go of the meaning. Kids aren't thinking about meaning. It's like we gosh, as an adult, it's like I'm trying to figure out like how to find meaning in things. It's like kids are not trying to find meaning. They're doing the meaning. Like I don't
Yeah.
know how to say it. It's like I guess maybe on I don't want to say unconscious level. I don't like that place. Um like the meaning is there. Maybe that's what we both understand but they're not thinking about let me find the meaning in this game of tag or whatever. And um I guess neither are adults when they jump in and play, just like in your game last night, dude, where you like finding the story of the game like meaningful. It's like
Yeah.
yes
I
and
didn't think
no.
about that.
You were living it. You weren't looking to find it meaningful. It's just
No.
you were doing.
No,
Um,
exactly.
but there's beauty in both places, right?
Hmm.
When you're just playing the game, there's beauty in that. And then after the game, sometimes the game that you played, it looks beautiful, right? Like, or maybe a moment of like brilliance that you had, or I don't know, like challenge that you overcome. You came down from three, two down or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there is that, I don't know, this is maybe where it's like the Robinson Jeffers thing. It's like, can you have both? Maybe not at the same time, but yeah, I guess you could have both.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not sure if it's a bad thing to do the reflecting on, as long as it doesn't become a substitute for the playing. I think the playing should be like dominant, and then the thinking about or speaking about it can enhance it, but it's like spicing your food. You spice your food a little. You don't substitute the food for the spice. That's kind of how I feel like the ratio should be.
Sure, yeah, there's an appropriate ratio.
Yeah.
Um, That's funny. I just had like just like imagery of like a big bowl of spices and then
Oh yeah.
like a little, bit of meat or you know, um
I put pepper instead of cinnamon in my oatmeal the other day.
ooh,
I put a lot of cinnamon in my oatmeal, so
love
just
cinnamon. I did the same thing.
anyway, not to get us off track, just popped into my
What
mind.
are we gonna do diet plans with our training plans as well?
Diet plans with our training plans.
Do you do diet plans?
Not well, a little bit. I think it's more intuitive now. It used to be like super
Good,
computational. It
good for
was
you.
really bad for me.
Good for
Um,
you.
but it helped me. But now I just have just baseline rules for myself. That's it. Anyway,
Yeah.
harmony.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it so much. You just
No.
kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, and also it's this
I
thing
think
of
I
like, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, this automaticity to things like I know I'm not gonna eat or drink certain things and it no longer appeal to me. That's this idea of like I don't need willpower anymore for refraining from things or eating the right things in another sense. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Um, I think I've seen this clip somewhere. I
Hmm.
honestly can't remember where it is or where it came from. But they were saying they did like some huge like meta study again. Don't have it cited. Nothing like that. But they did some like large study on what actually makes the difference in terms of diet and like just general health. They had all these metrics. I can't give you the details, but the general sense is like what stuck with me. And it was like the number one factor amongst like all different diet types, different body types, different ages, different whatever it was, different goals of like what they were trying to change, gain weight,
Yeah.
lose weight, whatever it is, was that they believed that it was healthful and like on the right track.
Yeah. 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 I know, but
They like surveyed them along the way, and it was like that was the most common thing in
yeah,
what worked.
I
It
know. I know.
wasn't detail A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
So that's what made the most effect. It's like that biology of belief type of,
It's super wild. It's same with placebo, right? Placebo works super
exactly
well.
that's definitely in the bucket of like biology of belief type of idea.
Yeah.
Um, which is really an interesting effect. I feel like I could talk about the placebo effect at any moment if someone wanted to. Um, what an interesting like phenomena.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the grad school programs that I was looking at, the professor, her specialty was like interested in the placebo effect.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that would be fun to do for you know, PhD or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, where do we go from here?
You got more scribs?
What?
You got more scribbles?
Yeah, I guess. Um, well, part of it was again, I wasn't sure like how much we were just gonna chat about things. I
Mm-hmm.
was just thinking about remember I had like my endorphins from my little run that I did, my sprint.
Yeah.
At that spot, the reason that I went down there to that spot is because it's a nice little hill and it's a nice day and it's in my neighborhood. But those big giant stones, those are like perfect for a little like amateur parkour type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just like practicing my little jumps and like landing on like one foot or the other and like doing, just like uh again trying to do what you said earlier, which is like go outside of my like standard run of the mill like body context for my day, right?
Yeah.
um, Not sitting at the computer, not whatever sitting
Mm-hmm.
in the car, um just do a little bit of that. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It has to do with my background, when I was spent my life being an athlete and a person that jumped around and played tag and just ran around like a crazy person all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then I came back to my house and I have have you used like battle ropes before or
Yeah.
like ropes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just thinking about the rhythm idea, like I'm thinking about our conversation. I'm thinking about sort of just doing these physical activities and especially like the running and the ropes, just how I can run in a healthy manner and like a vigorous, like vibrant manner when I get in a good rhythm,
Yeah.
right? Like the rhythm is actually what guides me to like just go. Um, and if you and you even we even use that language when we talk about like athletes of like a basketball player, like, oh, he's like totally shooting out of rhythm.
Mm,
It's like there's some rhythm that works for, you know, Michael Jordan or Scottie
yeah.
Pippen or John Stockton. I'm just gonna throw out random NBA names that are like, Kevin Garnett, my one of like some of my favorite players.
Hmm.
Um, Derrick Rose. They just have a certain rhythm that works, and it
Yeah.
allows you to express more energy. It's like the resonance, right? It's like when something is out of resonance, it's vibrating out of what the structure wants to vibrate at in a certain sense, right? It's like the ratios are off, the length of the waves are off in comparison to the physical structure. And then you can sort of like tune the oscillation so that it resonates. And then literally like a new sound like emerges,
Mm,
basically, right? It's like it starts to ring like or like when you hit a guitar harmonic, it's like you can hit that place on the guitar and play a note, or you can like hit a harmonic in a certain way. It's so crazy. Um, and there's like that sweet spot in running or using the ropes. Um, and so again, it was like, how do I connect this musical language of rhythms and harmonies to just putting it into practice in my life? And I had it. I was like, just focus on your rhythm. Like, and the thing just became, it captured me as I was just thinking about the rhythm of pumping my arms or doing the thing.
yeah.
So it was just yeah, I had that on my mind as we were like approaching the time that we were going to talk today.
That's awesome. I once ran for a while on a certain beats per minute. Like I would time my speed exactly with the song so that you run exactly on the rhythm of the song. It makes it so much easier. It's just
Yeah.
you're bouncing on it, like you're on the waves. Super nice.
So why is that the case? This is a place that we could dig into this. Why?
Harmony.
Why does a certain rhythm work?
Why does rhythm work? That's such a good question. I don't.
Or not even like why does rhythm work, but like why is there in the example of your running, the BPM that just like was your optimal, like rhythm for running? Why not any rhythm?
I think that it's a sort of alignment between the body's movements and the sounds of the song that
Mm.
when everything aligns together, so the audio, the visual, the physical, I think that then you're just more in harmony. You're more aligned with the patterns, let's say, that you're trying to pursue. Like for example, do you know how certain different music can pull up certain different energies or spirits or gods even? Like when you're
Sure.
getting ready for war, you listen to yeah, war
Yeah, dude.
songs. You have the drums. That's the rhythm of what you call it, Mars. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can come up with so many examples that are specific to the activity, the type of song, your pump up song before your big game,
Yeah.
like the song that you put on a when you're on a date with your fiance,
Mhm.
right? Um, the song in the movie that like actually works with the place where you probably are going to cry, right? It's not like
Yeah.
the things in the movie are happening and they make you want to cry, and then the music is just like something random
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
yeah. That's too
fitting,
aligned.
right? It plays a role. It can like interfere with with the harmony or not. Maybe that's again
Yeah.
interference. I'm thinking about interference patterns and like, okay, this language does like kind of work here. Um, right. I wonder, okay, here's where my mind goes. One place with the running rhythm is it's related to your specific biomechanics,
Mm.
right? Which is sort of the length of your femur compared to, the width of your hips or
Yeah.
right? And then also like your weight and height and the grade of the ground. And it's like there's also some we could like probably compute like why that BPM is perfect for you. And maybe, my body being different, I have a different BPM that sort of works for, again, the length of my femur and the width of my hips and, my body weight. Um, Something weird like that. So it's
Mm.
like, is there a running rhythm sort of already there for my body or for your body based on your physics, your physical
Yeah.
body?
It also depends on the speed, I guess. That's a big component to it. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, the beats per minute are have a lot to do with how quickly I'm running. So even though we
Oh
have
yeah.
different body types, we could align on that if we are able to run at the same speed. Do you know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah, I
different
think
rhythm you're tuning into. That's the same reason why when you're going to war, even though everyone's different and you all have your different complexities, you can align to the same rhythm
mm.
because that's what you're moving toward.
And in that case, it's like it's setting you up for the mindset of war.
Mm.
It's not like setting you up for like a powerful walking stride. It's like
No.
it's right. Um, so it's a different type of it's tuning into, your spirit, your heart,
Yeah.
your soul, something
Yeah.
like that. Um, right. Is there something about like I'm just thinking about like, well, yeah, probably. I'm thinking about like the drums of like, Lord of the Rings or something, right? And the
Yeah.
orcs like marching along, right? They're getting ready for like this big battle. Like what if they were skipping? Like that wouldn't put them in the right mindset of like,
No.
and the skipping has a different rhythm. It does something to your body. Would they sprint? Would they jog? Like maybe, yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
It's embodied.
Just the rhythm has a influence on the character of the situation,
Mm.
right? Like you said, like a slow drum rhythm, even just the speed, as you said, a slow rhythm is appropriate to walking into a battle, as you said.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas you have some other rhythm that sets you up to run a 5K or a 10K or something
Mm.
like
Mm. Absolutely, man. I don't know. I don't know where to take it
that. No,
because
me,
yeah, I
it's
mean,
just
like it's for everything, right? Rhythm is like when you're playing football with your team, you want to be on the same rhythm. That's the same as when you're going into war. So that's like it's an attunement. I think attunement is a good word. It's exactly also a musical term with what you said in the start. I
exactly.
I don't know exactly who uses it, but attunement is a very important term for me. I think if you do that, you're in constant flow or harmony. That's it.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I have in my scribblings like some of the words like tuning, and then we also obviously have talked about harmony. Um, One that I find very interesting is chords.
Mm.
Now I'm thinking about like a musical chord, which is sort of like related to harmony, right? It's like
Yeah.
um, you can make if harmony is present, like there's a chord there, right? Or chords provide harmony.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of bringing in the fact that there's like multiple things, as you said, that like fit together in some context. Um, and maybe that has to do with again, the ratios of their frequencies and maybe some of these interesting fractions or geometry. Um, but then also just the word chord. Okay, there's a musical chord, which is like three notes or something. There's many types of chords, of course. Um, there's also a chord in geometry, which is like a line across a circle.
Yeah.
In English, at least, I is it? I wonder about different languages actually. Um, well, I hadn't thought about that ahead of time, but in English, a mathematical line going across like from one side of the circle to the other, not necessarily through the center, is a chord also,
Yeah.
sort of like joining two distinct positions on the circle. Interesting.
What are you asking me?
No, no, I'm saying the word chord.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
no, I understand. I was thinking about the other language. I'm like completely into my
Oh yeah. Well, is it?
16-year-old.
I could ask you.
I
Do
don't
you know?
remember. I don't remember. I sucked at mathematics, but go ahead. I know there's a term.
Um, yeah, so there's musical chords, there's geometric chords, there's also chords that tie things together.
Hmm.
So that's interesting. It makes me think about the mathematical chord, which is like kind of like you could think of like a chord connecting two things,
Yeah.
or the notes being connected by a sort of chord.
Mm.
And then there's the word accordance,
Mm.
which has chord sort of as a root word.
Yeah.
And being sort of in accordance with something reminds me of what you were saying, like attunement, right?
Yeah. Or acting
Or
according to nature.
according to,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
It's being connected to, let's say, harmony. That's the example we're trying to give with attunement or nature. It's like
Sure.
yeah, you're connected to harmony. And that's what a chord does because it is different notes. It combines these different parts that on their own perhaps wouldn't produce a harmonious sound, but together they are that. Yeah.
Right. And so, okay, I'm bringing it back to the observer now. So there are sort of harmonious chords out in nature.
Hmm.
And then what about when we're a part of it? Is just that we fit ourselves into that chord and we maintain the harmony, or we become we act in accordance to the thing that is there, right? We're adding our own extra note to the
Yeah, that's a
an instrument. Is that
it's a big question. What are we like? Because nature without us, what is nature? Is there even a morality involved in nature? Is there a good and a bad? Or do we introduce that? Like, is it good or bad? Like, nature seems to be in harmony when the lions eat the gazelles and the gazelles eat the grass and, all these things. And then we can intervene in, let's say, positive and negative ways, but that's also how we define that. Like, we try to figure out what is good and what is bad. Is that natural? I've often asked myself this question and I can't land on the answer. Should we be natural? What is natural? What should we like? This is questions people struggle with a lot these days, and it's almost like a dangerous discussion to have because let's say now I say we should all be natural. Let's live as cave people. There's no way to do that now. We're too late. I'm not saying that's good or bad. Like I'm really struggling with these questions myself. It's like, okay, if you do that, people will die. Like you stop using the electric power grids, all these things. It's a big question.
I am right there with you. I agree. I kind of like to discuss it, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, I end up feeling a bit defeated.
Yeah.
I think I lose optimism.
Mm.
So it's not always fun to talk about
No.
unless we can say like what things can we actually do?
Mm.
Can we do that? And are we going to actually do it? Sometimes it's easy to think of things that you can do and then actually doing it, as you said, test yourself to go without two of the comforts that you're used to
Yeah.
in your day. Um, it's quite difficult.
Mm.
Um, I also wonder if being more natural would be better or not. I've tried it out, so I do have that. I can
Yeah.
say that. Tried it out in a couple of different ways. Obviously, other people have as well. But then I also ask myself, like, why did we get to this place where it feels like being natural is better than what we're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Why did we get, or is there a reason why, or did we just sort of get swept up in all this? Something seemed right to enough people. Um, and we can think about that over long periods of time now at this point too. So it's like almost like you can't, I don't know if we can like blame ourselves for like where we have ended up. Um, Maybe that's just a cop out. I don't know. I feel a different level of responsibility as a parent, to be completely honest.
Yeah, of course.
Uh, at some point in my life, I started to get a grip on like what I could control and like actually be an adult and like be in control of myself. And but I feel a different responsibility impacting children and setting them up in the world. You know, it's a weird present and future to really think about. Um, my childhood is not a good reference frame for me to set up my kids in some ways, and maybe in other ways that I should, well, that I do think about, right? Um, but there's a lot that's really different. And like for, okay, so one that I struggle with, I don't know about you. It's it's certainly got to be some type of addiction, which
Hmm.
is exactly what we're doing here. And watching other videos and doing it all, right? Like all of the media and information and knowledge that we're seeking is, dude, I can't deny it. I can't deny the like impulse to take it in and be a part of it and whatever
Yeah.
whatever it is. But our lifestyles seem to be past like the capacity of what's natural for like amount of information that we should take in. Even if we have good intentions and like want to be smart and want to be a positive influence on the world and whatever the good intentions are, it's like I think we're all maybe just past our capacity, or with so many people past their natural capacity of information, it's starting to like get weird.
Hmm.
Um and not maybe not healthy. And so it's like, what do I do for my kids? Um in this place, as you said, that we can't avoid, has the technology and the social media and the information and everything, and going full steam ahead too. Um, so, I mean, do you think about doing some of those more natural things only on your little small scale of your own life?
Yeah, of course. All the time. I feel that I'm trying to move closer to it all the time. I do see value in living that unbalanced way for just a little bit. Like, for example, when you get into university or when you have a brief period of time that you have to get a lot of information into invest in a long term, let's say. But I'm trying to live more balanced and more natural every day. Like the play factor is a really big one for me. Um, I think play is very natural. I'm really trying to incorporate more and more of that, like in conversation with you now. But for me, playing football has been transformative. I'm playing more and more now. That's really important for me. Um, I think I used to listen to so many podcasts and books, like so much, without even questioning if it was bad. And then it took me like a year after I already knew it wasn't good for me to reduce that a little bit. And it's the exact same thing with the way I move my body.
Mm,
Propositionally, I was already there like a year, 2 years ago that it was not balanced. Like I do a lot of weightlifting. I've done that for 7 years or so, and it was not balanced by mobility and flexibility work and stuff. And now I'm really upping that as well, like being more.
Did you
Be,
get injured? Did you get injured?
yes, actually.
Yeah, that's what happens, man. That's one of those like disharmony or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then you start to figure out that the whole system is connected, let's say. So then I started to work on all these things. I put in a lot of interventions, and now I'm trying to use it as a means to harmonize more. Exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe something okay. Why is harmony a useful framework? It's like trying to recognize that there are different pieces that could fit in,
Hmm.
right? And the appropriate pieces that go together, the right notes. Um, and I think it's also what's cool about harmonies is that there's flexibility in
Yeah.
things that work well, but there's also the sort of inflexibility of like these notes do work and these notes don't.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm not on the right track there, but I feel like maybe there's flexibility again in the like the different harmonies that are possible
Yeah.
in any given, when you're given a chord to add something to maintain harmony, there's lots of flexibility in your
Mhm.
choices. Um, so when you're deciding on how much of one activity you should do or another, right, you just have to take into account um, all of the things that you could do and choose a few.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have a tendency to think that we just go overboard with everything these days.
Hmm.
We go overboard with, I don't know, how much we want to get out of it or something.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe that's just myself and I'm just projecting that, but I
I'm
feel like that's
exactly
a
the same. So
I think a lot of people could relate to that. We're very ambitious
yeah.
in modern days. But maybe that's like why we end up here. It's like I'm ambitious and optimistic for my kids, right? Like I want them to like have the most, be the best, whatever it is that they want to do. And parents often do that for their children. And so that trend of like being really ambitious for your children and like doing that has been stacking up for a long time.
Hmm.
There's like an accumulation of like really ambitious parents, I guess, you know, creating or fostering the development of children who become super productive and super talented. And,
Yeah.
um, there's the other track where like some people have really rough lives and like not a good influence, and maybe parents that are ambitious in ways that don't really work for the child's flourishing or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But there is probably a trend of like good intentioned parents being ambitious for their kids, and so we're just reaching this time where that's happened many, 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 many generations. Um, and how do you how do you move away from that? It's like if I'm
Yeah.
going against that trend, am I like not being ambitious for my kids?
I
Like, am I
think
trying to like hold them back? Like, it doesn't make sense to like
no, no,
hold them,
no. I think I
right?
know a bit of for from personal experience. I'll speak and then I can extrapolate it a bit. So I was also very ambitious. I still am. Like one of the things I fear most is mediocrity. It really bothers me in my life. And I think at first when I was very ambitious, I wanted to be like really financially successful, like the usual story of like being super rich and having things. That's the having mode. And I think I've learned to realize that, well, first, just analytically, I could understand that even the people that have all these things are usually not in a great mind state, or they're not very wise, or they're not very happy. So I was like, okay, maybe that's not the thing to be ambitious for. And then I kept jumping a little bit to what I think are higher things to be ambitious for. Like, I think the thing I'm most ambitious for right now is to use the language from today is to increase harmony in the world. Like if I can do that, and in my life, I started my own life and then I extrapolated toward the world because that's the ripple effect. If we can somehow steer our ambition, our ambition that's like on fire to to harmony in the world, then that's beautiful. Then that doesn't have to go to waste. But if you steer toward productivity that is quantifiable in numbers, then that's dangerous. But yeah, I'm going full circle.
Good. A callback to being like anti-number, right? Um,
I'm not anti-number. I'm just like,
I'm just I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's really awesome, man. I mean, being reflective and putting it into practice is truly a challenge. Um, and you always have to worry. Well, at any given moment, you can worry that you're tricking yourself. You shouldn't always worry about that, but
yeah,
you can go into that mode too, and that's a sort of different type of reflection. And there's probably a healthy balance of that, and an unhealthy
yeah,
balance of that too. Um, yeah. What? Well, I feel like I have a little bit of time, and I love that we're getting personal with it. I wonder if we can. I mean, can you identify some things that are you want to create harmony in your own life? Maybe we can just help each
yeah,
other in our this little bit of time here.
yeah, sure. Um, well, it started with the things that I just spoke about in movement, in
Mm,
um, the information that I'm getting in. Like I started to realize that harmony for me is much more geared toward spending time with other people and sharing, for example, than just my own
mm,
individual. Like you had the same thing, right? That's why your story resonated so much with me because
mm.
um, I think you realized that life wasn't about you, or at least that's not what you wanted anymore. And so that's in one sense to be harmonious with the world is to actually face more outward. Um, yeah, so that's what I'll say for now. I don't know if you have anything on your
Cool.
side that we can discuss.
Cool. You're so deep. You're being. I think you're being quite general in a good way, in a useful way, where
Mhm.
you're able to like apply that to like so many different things in your life, probably the way
Mm,
that you expressed it. Um, Again, it's like to recognize what's going to fit in with the harmony, you got to see what's already there.
yeah,
Um, and okay, so for me, um, I think it's very related to what you said, which on a general level, I need to see the notes that are out there more
yeah.
than just ringing out my own note, you
Mm,
know. Um, so trying to get in tune with the movements and the faces and um, all of those patterns that the people in my family are making.
yeah,
And um, right, finding harmony with maybe they're getting in their rhythm. I'm a very fast-paced person
mm,
with intensity, right?
yeah,
And this is great. I'm just sort of like going with this in the moment. So um, yeah, controlling controlling my rhythm and intensity to slow down the pace. I think it's obvious that I need to slow down.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm gonna also just like be aware of those body movements that I make, um, and try to be in harmony with the other bodies that are around me, which, um, my wife and my kids.
yeah. You're gonna be trying to lead by example because you have, like you said, these little creatures who mimic you in many ways. It's the only thing you should do. Like it's such a responsibility. We spoke about before, like being a parent in a digital age, all these things. It's so difficult, but it's really important to lead there. So that's a harmony to manage for sure.
Yeah. I know it makes well, it's like it makes me self-conscious about like having my own shiny little rectangles that I look at.
Yeah,
Um, right. Um, but that's something I've been dealing with as as a new parent and in the modern age of technology is like
Yeah.
my own age as an example. Um, well, what about okay, I'm going to push you a little bit further for your own personal harmony.
Yeah.
What about with your fiance?
Mhm. I actually like to discuss the relationship between music and, let's say, the relationship, your romantic partner, in the sense that I heard this on Karen's channel that it's important with your partner to come together, in a song, like you have the melody and then it spreads out again. So you have like a specific pattern that then goes this way and the other pattern goes that way. I think with your partner it's important to unify and then to go apart again. In the sense that like it's a daily rhythm already. You go do your work and the other person does that work. And then you come together, you have your meals, you have your moments. Um, and then you go out into the world again to gather your own experiences. Like that's one way of thinking about, for me, harmony with my my fiance, but it's in every moment, like even in conversation, it's like you don't want to be too similar, you don't want to be exactly the same, you want to learn from each other. So it's like um working kind of with each other by being different and seeing the different person's perspective, and like dancing almost. It's, to me, it's really like play. When, like, for a lot of people, discussions and arguments, they're terrible, but I like them in the sense that it teaches you how to, yeah, how to, I don't know, play with the other person in a
In a way
very
that's
important way.
beautiful,
Sorry.
in a way that appears beautiful, like
Yeah.
you can sort of recognize the beauty
Yeah,
in
it's
the
like a
dance.
dance.
Mhm.
It's really like a dance to me. So yeah, yeah. I don't know if you want me to say more about that. I don't know.
Just like I said, I can't talk about all this stuff and not try to somehow make it land on something that's going to go into our day.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need to do, I think, with these conversations to apply.
Yeah, at some point, kind of like the whole conversation doesn't have to be like make it practical, make it practical. What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do next hour? What are you going to
Yeah.
but like I said, stick the landing on um these are some things that we're going to try to do really for ourselves, like our lives and the people in them. So
Yeah.
cool, man. I think I've got to move on with my day. You should
Yeah.
rest up
We got a solid
and
2 hours in. That's good. That's awesome, man. Yeah.
nice.
Thank you for the precious time.
So dude, it's so fun. I really just enjoy talking to you and so let's just keep it going.
That's awesome, Scott. I wish you a good weekend. I hope I didn't steal you for too long today.
Oh,
And
all
yeah, thanks for your time, man.
right.
Have a
Have a
good
good
one.
night.
See you guys.